Well, good evening, folks. We're ready for another Thursday night with the Confederate Minute and Eisenhower Speaks. I'm going to read something real quickly. When the greetings and the welcomes of the hospitable New Orleans authorities had been expressed at the opening of the last great UCV reunion in New Orleans, General Stephen D. Lee, upon taking the chair as the presiding officer, began to speak. Now, what I'm reading it is actually, this is a speech that Stephen Lee gave in 1906 in New Orleans. And the UDC is the United Confederate Veterans. This is before the Sons of Confederate Veterans. In fact, that's what this speech was to. It was to a situation where he's handing off the baton of leadership from his generation to the next generation. I want to go and talk a little bit about this. This is where the vaunted charge of the SCV of the Sons of Confederate Veterans comes from. This New Orleans speech. This actually, that day, he gave 3 charges to 3 separate groups. One to the sons, that's us. The other to the daughters, and the other to the civilians. So he actually was trying to say, the generation is now dying. I'm one of the last members of that war. We're passing the baton on to the next generation. That's all that really was. Now, having said that, I wonder how many of you have actually read the speech. Think about that. The average SCV member read the whole damn speech. I would bet good money that not even a fraction of you have ever read the whole speech. Now, why is that? Oh, do tell. Do tell. Why have you not read the speech? Because you don't know anything about it. Because you don't know your history. That's why. People like myself and others have been out here trying to tell the Sons of Confederate Veterans, we need to know our history. In fact, I have a whole presentation that some of you have seen that I go around to different SCV camps and UDC chapters to give. And it's a call to arms about how we have to know our history. We have to know our history. Now, that brings me to this. On Facebook this morning, I woke up to one of the groups up here in Virginia put a post out that basically said, "Welcome to Confederate History Month, April, etc.," which was nice. And they said now we can do the whole charge. They put the whole charge down, and immediately they were attacked. Oh, that's not the whole charge. Oh, that's not the real charge. Oh, and I'm sitting there reading this stuff and going, how are you people so stupid? How are you so stupid? And I'm amazed at this. And actually, going back to 2010, I had just joined an SCV camp. Actually, was the pit of the fire eaters in Virginia here, and it was a year to where they had a reunion, and it was in New Orleans. Of course, I'm new to the situation. I don't know anything that's going on with the SCV. And at that time, the commander showed us that the amendments that were going to be voted on down in New Orleans, and how does the camp want to vote? Going back, there were several different amendments. And one of the amendments was to cut the last 3 sentences out of the charge. I didn't know. Sure, whatever you guys want to do, I don't know. I'm new here. So that took place then. Later on, I came to realize what that was and very disgusted at it. And then in Charleston in 2016, some of the folks brought up not an amendment to the charge, but they wanted to add an addition to the charge, and it was saying to say, "Hey, we think you should say this after you've read the charge." And it was amazing. 1,500 delegates down in Charleston, and half were ready to shoot the other half. Oh my gosh! You would have thought it was World War III. You'd have thought they were talking bad about somebody's grandma. They were going to kill each other, screaming at the top of their voice, "Oh my God, I refuse to allow you to add this to the charge. My son will not have this." Oh my gosh, I was sitting there saying to these people, wow, there's at least 800 to 900 people in this room that are absolutely out of their mind. They're stupid. They have no clue of what they're talking about, but they're screaming. They're ready to kill somebody. The other half that wanted to just simply add, not to the charge, they were just simply saying that you should read this after that you've read the charge. It was a simple thing. The Virginia delegation actually proposed this. It was just simply saying, they wanted to say to you guys, SCV members in this room, We're talking about you. That's all it was about. Say, and to you, this is your responsibility. They just wanted to point out that the charge was something that we all, as Sons of Confederate Veterans, take, because that's what we have to do to be Sons of Confederate Veterans. That's why we're Sons of Confederate Veterans, the charge. There is no other reason. Do you understand what I just said? There is no other reason to be in the SCV if you don't do the charge. Do you understand? Shall I repeat that? There is no reason to be in the SCV if you're not going to do the charge. That's what this group is about. It's a voluntary group to come and talk about our ancestors, about their works, not our works, their works. And yet you had these people who were ready to, I thought somebody was going to pull out a gun and shoot somebody. They were screaming that I will never do this. And I was sitting there going, how stupid can you be? Just a few years ago, the National SCV cut 3 sentences out of the charge. And yet these bozos, a few years later, are screaming that we can't even add just a saying, which is basically saying, hey, we're talking about you guys in this room when we read this charge. So the contention in this convention, when people were talking about this amendment, they're simply going to be adding a few sentences to remind that the charge is for us to adhere to. I was actually supporting that. I thought it was very nice. But I couldn't understand how people were so, how can I say it, uninformed that less than 6 years earlier, they had actually cut the 3 sentences out of the charge. I don't know why they did it. I have my speculations, but I don't know. Like I said, I just joined the organization. So it was all new to me. But since then, I've done a bit of research, and I found that a lot of the camps, it doesn't matter which division, some still say the entire charge. Some camps here in Virginia still say the entire charge. Some in North Carolina I observed, some in South Carolina I observed, say the whole charge. Not all, some do. And again, it's a good thing, because the only reason that we're Sons of Confederate Veterans is because of the charge. There's no other reason. We're not a fraternal order. That's not what we do. We're not the Masonic or any other kind of group. We're to honor the Confederate soldier. That's what our charge is. Now, I'm going to read to you all the last 3 sentences that actually were taken out of the charge. This is what the controversy is about. To you, the Sons of Confederate Veterans, will commit the vindication of the cause for which we fought. To your strength will be given the defense of the Confederate soldier's good name, the guardianship of his history, the emulation of his virtues, and the perpetuation of those principles which he loved and which you love also, and whose ideas which made him glorious and which you also cherish. That's the current SCV charge. The 3 sentences were taken out start here. The next one is, are you ready to die for your country? Question mark. Is your life worthy to be remembered along with theirs? Question mark. Do you choose yourself for this greatness of soul? Question mark. Not in the clamor of the crowded streets, not in the shouts and plaudits of the throng, but in ourselves, our triumph and defeat. That's the whole SCV charge. That is the charge. Okay, who says it? That's the charge. That's what the man said down in New Orleans in 1906. That's what he said. Now, if you don't think that's the whole charge, then that's something you got to deal with. But that is the charge. So, what are you arguing about? Those 3 lines. Are you willing to die for your country? I don't know. Ask you a question. Are you? I think most of you probably are. In fact, a lot of Sons of Confederate veterans are former members of the military, which they actually have put that on the line. They were willing to die for their country. So many of our men in the SCV have indeed lived up to that charge. The part, why are you doing this? Is your life worthy to be theirs? Think about this. Whatever you think you're doing in the SCV, I don't care what you think it is. I don't care what it is. How many of you, and even some of our Vietnam veterans and stuff, and our Gulf War veterans, did you go to war for 3.5, 4 years? Come back to a country that didn't exist anymore? Did you do that? Most of you who do serve our country, and my hat's off to you, I love you, I love our veterans. You did not have a place that you left and came back that didn't exist anymore. You didn't have half your family members killed and murdered. You didn't have your entire culture destroyed. You came back to America. Now, you might have Vietnam veterans, and I do remember our Vietnam veterans coming back. A lot of people spit on you, did other things to you. But even at that, all the stuff, all the grease that grime and dirt and mud and everything else that you all did in the jungles of Vietnam, you still came back to a country. You still came back to a home. You still came back to a place where you could start again, and you did. But our Confederate veterans did not. Many of them, to this day, we don't know where they're buried. To this day, we don't know where they're buried. We know the battles they died in. We know about where they're buried, but they're buried in concrete and stuff under all kinds of stuff. Did you do that? Even our Vietnam veterans, most of our veterans have been accounted for, even though we do have some MIAs. But we still think about what we go through to get our MIAs home now. And I'm all for it. I think it's fantastic. I think President Trump has done a great job in bringing some of our MIAs home. I'm always willing to get our MIAs home. I think that's the noble thing. I think that's what we all must do. However, there's a whole lot of MIAs missing in the Confederate Army. They're buried up north with no grave markers. After they died in horrible prisons designed to kill them. And those that did make it home came back to a place where they had to walk past the swollen bodies of comrades who've never been buried. And to this day, they've never been buried. They're still in the woods of Virginia, the woods of North Carolina. They're still out there. So I ask, honestly, as an SCV member, what have you done equal to that? What have you done? I'm not upset with you. Most of you know that I'm a Virginia flagger, and we've done a lot. Not necessarily more than anybody else, but nothing compared to what our veterans did, what our Confederate veterans did. That's the point of this. We are emulating and perpetuating their memories, not our memories, their memories. Do you understand that? So a reason to be in the SCV. If you're not in the SCV for that reason solely, you're wasting your time. We are a volunteer organization that honors our Confederate soldiers, both the ones that came back from the war and the ones that never made it back from the war. So putting up grave markers, I'm 100% for it. Putting up monuments to them, I'm 100% for it. Teaching the correct history of them, I'm 100% for it. Those are the things that we're supposed to do. But when somebody puts on the Facebook the whole charge, the one that I just read to you, and you go ballistic and say, that's not the whole thing, that's not this, I just have to ask, how stupid can you be? Really, how stupid can you be? Why would you attack somebody on that basis and saying that they don't know what they're talking about, where they're putting the truth out there? What you should ask yourself is, why don't you know about it? Which means that's you. See, that's you. You don't know about it because you haven't studied. If you had studied, you know about it. And some of you older members, you absolutely know what I'm saying is true because you remember the old speech, the old charge where they gave the whole charge. Like I said, a lot of camps around the country still do the whole charge, which I think they should do. So the controversy comes into where you're attacking each other because of, well, that's not the right charge. Oh, that's not right. Really? Do you know? Have you read? Have you read it? Do you even know where it comes from? Have you read the whole speech? Because the whole speech will blow your mind. It's not what you think it is. And so here, once again, I go back with IsenhourSpeaks was for this reason, to educate us. We have to know our history. We have to know our history. And not knowing our history is our fault. There's nobody keeping us from knowing our history except ourselves. And if you don't know the history, there are good people out there who can teach you the history. There are good books out there. I promote good books that do that. There are so many good Facebook pages. There's so many good articles and stuff that are out there. If you seek them, you can find them. They're out there. They're wonderful things. But are you taking advantage of that? Do you know your history? That's what I just want to say tonight. I'm tired of this nonsense that somebody thinks they know more about the SCV than somebody else. Somebody knows this, somebody knows that. Until you've studied the history, you just talking wind. And I ain't talking about the history of where your grandfather or great-grandfather are buried or not buried. I'm talking about the history of the war. I know for a fact, because I go in front of hundreds of camps. I've spoken in over 50 camps alone. They don't know the history. For all of you that want to be the Facebook pundits, I got news for you. You don't know as much as you think you know. In fact, I'm kind of tired of you Facebook pundits. You always want to down somebody, but you never want to put the history out there. And when good people put the history out there, you always poo-poo it. I'm tired of you people. I really am. I'm tired of you people. You make me sick. You absolutely make me sick. You don't know anything, but yet you want to spew your nonsense. And I'm not talking about the haters, because we got a lot of them, but a lot of members with the SCV are always trying to criticize other members for doing the right thing, because it's not what they think is right. I'm tired of what you think was right. There is history. There is what is right. And people who are trying to keep the history together and tell the truth are the ones you're attacking. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of you people. I really am. I'm just tired of you people. You're just so boring with your nonsense. There are real good people in the SCV doing real good things. And there's always those people out there trying to be smarter than anybody else, so they know more and all that. But the funny thing, I've said this before, the funny thing, I don't see many of you in the trenches. I'm in the trenches, and I don't see you. You know, I don't see you. So it means you're not in the trenches, or you're in some trenches that we're not aware of. The heritage movement is a big movement, but there's a lot of people out there who think they're in it. They really are not. And again, the charge is something that we adhere to. That's the reason we're members of the SCV. Sons of Confederate Veterans take this charge. That's what it was given to us to take forth and to emulate and perpetuate the memory of the Confederate soldier who did it all. Again, we did nothing. If we put up a flagpole, if we put up a marker, or we put up 100 markers, or put 100 flagpoles, that's great. I'm 100% for it. But they did it. We didn't. And I'm tired of all these people trying to criticize for those of us who are trying to do the right thing and honor and take that charge to heart. That's the question. I'm going to leave that with you tonight. Read that charge. If you cannot live up to that charge, please get out of the SCV. We don't need you. If you want to learn the charge, stay in the SCV and start start working the charge. I see so many camps to where we have 5 or 6% in a camp of 40 people who do all the work. What are you other folks doing? What's the reason to be in this group? This group is to get out there and do things. And there are lots of things to do. From reenactment on one thing, but like I said, putting up markers. There's so many markers that still need to be put up all over this country, where our Southern soldiers still lie unmarked. And there's so many monuments that we're going to have to be protected here now. There's so much for us to do. And so if your heart's in it by reading the charge and doing the charge, we're a strong organization. But when you do it for other reasons than that charge, you weaken the organization. So I really think that you should consider why you're in this organization. Do you want to do the charge? We want you. You are part of us. We need you. We need the participation. We need to step up and go forward and stop this petty stuff. If you don't know the history, learn it. It's real easy to learn. There are lots of good places to find out where all this information is, but you've got to make the effort to go do it. It doesn't come to you magically. It takes work. And with that, I hope you all have a good Thursday evening.